Okay. I'm going to call the meeting to order. It's somewhere around 3 o'clock. I have a couple of announcements here to make. First of all, we are going to change the order of the agenda. We're not going to change the content, but I am going to change the order. We will have the call to order, the members present, public comment period, and then we will go into the closed session. After the closed session, we will resume the regular board meeting, and the reason for doing this is that during the closed session, we are paying for an attorney, and I don't want him to sit through the whole meeting. It'll cost the hospital lots of money. The second thing I want to announce before we get going is the wording of the agenda. Some people have complained to me about the agenda wording, and I will tell you it was from an attorney that worded this. Every time we have a closed session, we have to designate the code that it comes under. The attorney decided to list everything that that code covers. Just because it's listed doesn't mean that that's what we're going to enact. So with that understanding, we can all pledge allegiance to our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And will the secretary make note of the members present? Jerry Nielsen, Rich Rydell, Dana Siendel, Ken Crandall, and myself. Okay, then we can get on with the public comment period. If someone wants to make a comment, I see an arm, but I don't know who it is. You can stand.
Hi, Nancy, but I am dismayed by this board. There's a lot of anxiety among the staff of the hospital. We've lost several people. One of the biggest reasons is because there's no protocol for HR grievance here that isn't already prejudiced. And rather than face that, and the board knows about it, rather than face that, it would appear that you're more anxious to consider a vendetta against Linda Wagner. I'm just horrified and a little worried about the future health of this hospital. Good day.
Thank you for your comments. Does anyone else have anything that they want to comment on? That was less than I thought. Okay, with that, we're going to go into the closed session, and then we will reconvene after the closed session.
Who do you want in the closed session?
Just the board members and the attorney. Okay, we are back in regular session. I will note that the board met in closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, parentheses D, parentheses 2. The board was made aware of potential workplace issues, and we have authorized a confidential investigation. There's nothing else to report. So we'll proceed with the regular agenda, which also has a problem. The approval of the minutes. I was made aware about 15 minutes before this meeting that there's some errors in the minutes that have to be corrected. And I don't know if Joanne or Jerry, which one of you feels more like doing this?
Well, I made the corrections for the seconds and the motions that you sent me on email, but they're not here in this one. Yeah, so I'll have to make the corrections to the thing, and then there's the other issue of the three.
There was a question as to which motion was approved on page 3 of the minutes.
On page 2, toward the top, it says initial appointment for Dr. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. but I think we approved that, as I recall, as a group with the others, but it doesn't show on the minutes. So that was one. On page 3, home family donation. I believe Ken had seconded that one, rather than myself. Yeah. And then on tab F, the motion was made by me and it was seconded by Ken to approve the version of the evaluation program that the committee had brought, minus subtract changes.
And that was the question, there's 3. And the working draft with comments from the welfare reviewed by the attorney. The draft changes was the one, how I understood the motion.
Yeah, it was minus subtract changes.
So that was the one
Yeah.
that you approved.
So what is the corrected wording? What is the corrected wording? Maybe we could approve the minutes with the corrected wording.
The motion was made to accept this working draft, removing the track changes.
Okay. And that's what I meant to say? Okay, so it was the second one.
Yes.
So we're on the same page.
Yes, it was the right document, it just didn't have that part, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's all that I caught, but I don't have anyone saw anything else.
So with those changes, could we have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, Jerry?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Dana?
Oh, go Stinger.
And I vote aye.
So then you should say,
Okay, then let's move on. Let's see, is Dr. Ware?
Yep.
Give a report.
Okay, first are the credential files. Initial appointment to the medical staff, professional family practice, Dr. Daniel Cooper, who sits beside me. And then initial appointment, allied health practitioner is Teresa Nielsen, who's behind me. And initial appointment, courtesy locums ED, one or all, Sonia Sanga, MD, Sean Wilkie, MD, and I, Dr. W. That's all I can say. And then reappointment, ED with additional admitting privileges, Dr. Nancy.
Dr. Ware, do we need to retroactively approve the credentials for Dr. Cooper?
Why retroactively?
no, he was on temporary privileges until we could get full approval.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ware.
So if there's no other discussion, could I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, on favor, Ken?
Aye.
Jerry? Rich?
Aye.
Dana?
Aye.
And I vote aye. The policies?
Okay. There's some rescinding ones and new policies. All of these have been approved by the medical staff, unchanged. So, I can speak to any of them that you want me to, but
So they're all exactly the same?
they,
they're just
yeah,
being shifted over.
exactly right. And the ones that were outdated, rescinded.
Any discussion? Is there a motion to accept these?
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor? Barry?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Dana?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Okay, that brings us to the financial report.
It's gonna miss you, Dr. Walsh.
Well, I don't have eyes in the back of my head.
You already know this stuff. Okay, we're under tab D. We're looking at July of 2019, the first month of fiscal year 1920. As presented in the financial statements, in short, we had a decent month in relationship to budget. We had a net loss of $226,000 compared to a budgeted loss of $252,000, so a small positive variance. This was due to a positive variance in net patient revenue. Mainly adjustments to revenue were lower than we had budgeted, so our net patient revenue as a percentage was greater. And we had a small positive variance in operating expenses. How about that? Which was somewhat offset by a small negative variance in other non-patient revenue. Everything really kind of fell in line here. I'm just going to hit some highlights. Inpatient, we had 28 acute inpatient days versus a budget of 38. We had 0 swing bed days, which is what we budgeted. The reason we have 0 and 0 is that we just had our occupational therapists come on board, our contract folks, and they are credentialed now, and we hopefully will be meeting next Tuesday morning, and start looking at accepting some swing bed patients. So we budgeted no swing bed patients for July and August, and that's what we experienced in July. The outpatient revenue overall was positive. There were some ups and downs. The Lake Alamo Clinic visits were down mainly due to the departure of Dr. Salehi. Went through, again, the expenses, very close to budget, a positive variance of $9,000. Salaries and wages were under budget, approximately $64,000. We continue to have budgeted employee positions being filled by contract labor. Our employed FTEs were 98.91 versus budget 105.5. Contract labor was over budget by 66,000 due to what I just said, and FTEs under contract labor were 10.98 versus a budget of 6.25. So when we add up our total labor, the total FTEs, contract and employed, are slightly under budget. Everything else basically fell into line again. The pro fees for the medical, very positive thing. Our ER cost was right at budget, slightly below budget. The Lake Alamo Clinic pro fees were kind of up and down, if you will, but netted out okay, mainly because we were down with Dr. Salehi leaving in July. Teresa Nielsen covered some of Dr. Salehi's patients, so her cost was over budget, but it ended up being a net okay, if you will. Big thing to note, days of cash on hand did go down from 153 to 124.5, and days of cash on hand are unrestricted days of cash on hand, and that was due to us moving the capital funding request amount of $1.1 million to board designated cash to bring the total there at the amount that you all approved, and we'll talk about this shortly here, just over $1.6 million. Gross accounts receivable ended at $4.6 million, which was a decrease of 84, just around 84,000. The AR days did come down to 59.3, but still above our range of 45 to 55, and so we'll talk about HRG a little more in their section. So any questions about the financials themselves? Let's go into the fun stuff.
I was just wondering when we'll start the audit process for last year.
2 weeks. It'll be here the week of the 9th, September 9th. Okay. So still staying in tab D, but at the end of your financials, so it goes page 7 to 7 is the last page of the financials, and then the following page 101 is the the provider analysis. Okay, so what I want to talk about with you all is a lot of stuff related to capital capital items. First thing is, this first section here under agenda item 6.6I is the 1920 capital budget request that we sent to you.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, which page were you on?
I wish I could tell you which page we're on. We're right after the financial section in the agenda item 6I.
Gotcha,
Okay.
thank you.
That's the title page. There you go. One over.
Hey Jacob, is this, do I have to hit anything? Oh, I probably have to plug it in, right? Okay.
While you're plugging in, I didn't bring my parka today. Is it kind of cold in here for everybody else? Or, no, oh, it's okay, sorry. Sorry. I'll just sit here and shut it.
You guys can follow along through your packet. You also look up here, except for Dr. Walls. So the first page behind the cover page for 6I is what we're presenting to you as what I'm calling a revised. There's a couple things going on here. When we sent the capital request to you, I got crossed up on our IT request. Don't turn your page, if you can just look at this, so keep it easy from flipping around. This was the actual, what you all approved. This IT server here on the very first line, this was a new request for fiscal 1920. This is a replication server for CPSI. What should have gone here was a server upgrade, SAN deployment item that you all had approved back in March of 2019. So what I'm going to need to do, and I'll show you on the other page, I'm just going to walk you through these changes first, and then we'll go to what the change looks like. This IT server for $48,000 needs to go into the 1920 request, and what needs to go into the FY19 board approved is the $85,000. The next item that we want to change is the lab refurbishment. When we originally put in the proposal to you all, the lab cabinets, we were only looking at doing the upper cabinets, and then when we looked what we were doing, we realized we're essentially creating a brand new lab, and we would have old, outdated cabinets in the bottom. So we got a quote to do all of the cabinets, including a center island. The flooring, because we did lowers on the cabinets, the flooring came in at a lower amount. That was assuming covering more flooring. The other item that was on the request, the transport van, at the time when we did the capital request, we did not have the final invoice for the second van. We now have the final invoice for the second van, so we put that amount in. And then we had a emergency purchase in this year. So if you guys stay on that page, where that first page you're at, here's what the capital budget request looks like at this point. We're putting in the IT servers, which you all approved. The facilities master plan, the market study and forecast were approved by you. The Collins land was approved. The facilities master plan and market study and forecast are moving forward. As far as incurring expenses towards the amount you approved, the land purchase is still pending. There's the new amount for the cabinets. Yeah, that is a significant increase over the previous number. But that is to redo the entire lab, and
Is it all required?
Linda, what did you say about the covering? There's one part of it's required. I think it's mainly why do you do a whole entire lab and then have have part of it look poorly. And as you can see, there's some narrative in there. We haven't touched the lab in years and years and years. I don't know if we were trying to go on the cheap when we did the first round, but it seems silly to not do the whole thing.
There were some things that we took hits on from when the lab had their survey through CLIA about binders without being covered in the work area. There was some issues with the flooring needed to be redone for a while. So as Steve said, we just looked at, let's just redo it all while we can, while we're over there. Because we know, and I don't know, is Dave still in the audience? We know that we have, oh, there you are, sorry, that we needed to touch up the lab and not just do a little touch-up, but refurb the lab. So that's one of the big reasons why we're completely redoing it. And that's on top of the money that we received from the KVK grant.
It's incredibly disruptive to do anything in the lab. They have to move their equipment. We're putting the new equipment in closets or wherever Dave's putting them right now so we can run them. Those machines are not meant to be moved around. They're meant to be put down and left. So that's our recommendation, that we finish the rest of the lab, and that's what's proposal before you. We do have the final cost on the second van, pushed the total amount above the Collins grant, $27,392. Main difference between what we originally looked to spend and what came in is that the manufacturer gave us a group purchasing discount from a GPO we're not a member of, from Marinette versus Premier, so we lost that $5,000 credit. Down below here's the CPSI replication server. This is something we want to do, but this is something that is not as crucial to do. One of the things about the lab is the commitment we made to KVK for the $218,000 that they gave us for the equipment, that we would have it in and operating by December 31, 2019. So it's crucial whether we do all the cabinets or just the uppers. We have to have that done by December to comply with the terms of the grant. So things like the CPSI replication server, although quite, whatever the right way to say it is, quite the project that we want to do and valuable to us, it's going to get pushed out as more pressing things present themselves. One such item is on here is the radiology DR plate. I don't know if you guys remember, but in July our CR reader, which is what takes our images from our x-ray machine and then sends them off, converts them to digital or sends them off to the radiologist. The CR reader went down. CR reader is very, very old. We tried to fix it. We ultimately determined that the best course of action was to, the technician guy, Stewart X-ray, said, hey, you guys aren't even digital. If you just go hit a digital plate, this thing will work. So he lined us up with a digital plate, got it in faster than we would have been possibly be able to repair the CR reader. They don't even know. That was their tech's estimate. And so we did the DR plate. We are looking at solutions to the CR reader, whether or not we attempt to fix it, or we've also seen some more cost-effective or reasonable, based upon useful life, solutions for the CR reader that we'll probably be bringing back to you soon. So those are the changes. There's one other item, I'm sorry, missed that. The hospital HVAC was in here without an amount. We did get some preliminary reports from our architects, and HVAC is just a horrible thing to have to replace in a hospital. It involves incredible standards, aka OSHPD, and so as far as like putting in a new chiller, putting in a new HVAC system, we're talking millions. It's just not feasible to do that. They are going to give us a maintenance program that we may be able to do something on an ongoing basis until we truly determine what we're going to do with this building and what we're going to do behind here with the possible new building. But putting a couple $1 million into this hospital when we could be over here in a brand new facility in 5 years is not penciling out, if you will. So we'll continue to look at HVAC solutions along with the architects. And, but that would, if we have to do something, but ultimately we have to do something, that would be done outside the capital request. That would, we'd probably have to issue debt for that. We don't want to burn a couple million of our cash reserves on HVAC. So, and that would be a horrible decision to have to make, and how it would affect our projections for the new hospital. We have received a bid on the roof resurfacing. It was from someone who bid previously. Linda McCurdy and I are going to have to get back with them because their bid came in at a lower amount than they bid the last time, and that doesn't seem right. But their original bid was $150. So with what we're looking at for the roof resurfacing, it's probably going to come in under $250,000. So that number's flexible. The CT ramp to the hospital we're going to talk about today, that's a pretty close number there. Shore power for the MRI, we're moving forward. We have an application, Linda McCurdy did an application with PGE. We don't have a cost estimate yet. That will provide permanent direct power for our MRI. Provide more reliable power, plus we're currently getting charged $2,000 every time the MRI comes out here to use their generator that sits in our parking lot. Okay. So any questions about what I tried to present here and what I'm trying to explain? The biggest thing is that I made an error with the IT servers. You guys approved the 85, we signed the contract. That's going to happen this fall. I just want to be clear on that one.
What is the status of the market study?
Got the first draft of it. Yes. They completed the first draft of our market study, identifying underserved service lines, and then put projections forward with just our current numbers. With our current numbers, no changes to our utilization, no changes based upon their recommendations for capturing leakage or underserved market. They've said that we could probably issue $26 million in debt right now, which is good news, but not enough good news with what we think our square footage needs are and our potential construction costs are. But it's still exceptional news just based on our current financials. They identified that the guys that do the state demographer, the guys that do the population estimate, they're projecting that the aged population in the Lake Almanor Basin, our area, is going to continue to grow. And in the next 10 years, a greater percentage of our population is going to be in the over 60. And so there's going to be more of a greater demand for geriatric or other types of services like that. They absolutely think there's going to be a greater demand for long-term care, which is fantastic news for us. It's a very good business for us. They feel that we're currently underserved in the primary care area just a little bit based upon where we're at right now, which is pretty well staffed. And they absolutely think we're underserved in the specialty areas of surgery. So there's opportunities in all those areas I've listed to put something in a new facility that could capture that revenue based upon bringing in the providers and properly promoting our facility.
Mr. Steve, I'm just curious why you refer to this as came in draft.
It's just it's their first pass at it. We looked through it, we found some errors, and we've asked them to revise it. The other thing is they did a very deep analysis of inpatient and outpatient services and long-term care. They didn't do, other than just doing a high-level look at provider supply versus demand for primary care and specialties. They didn't drill down on the clinic.
And are we asking them to do that?
We absolutely have. That's key. That drives the whole show.
What type of errors did you make? Out of curiosity.
Well, they pull their data from various sources, and like Dr. Ware would be listed as a FTE under Seneca Healthcare District, and then would be listed as an FTE under Lake Almanor Clinic in the same amount. Thanks, Dr. Ware, you were a 1.5 FTE.
Yeah, you worked hard.
Same with Dr. Wells, same idea. Some of our emergency physicians are classified as family practice because that's their specialty, but they work in the emergency room only. So we had to get that clear. We want to look at Greenville as a potential area, but that's right now served by Plumas District through a rural health clinic. But we still think that there's some conveniences for people to come just up the canyon as opposed to wind their way to Quincy for certain services here. And so they were counting their provider as a 1.0, which they need to bring that down.
There's also a rancheria in Greenville.
They excluded the rancheria.
They excluded?
I don't know why.
Yeah, because they take care of patients.
Yeah. So that's
So we need to tell them that.
Yeah, maybe Greenville's just we put them as a secondary. What they do is they identify a primary service area, and then they identify a secondary service area. Our primary service area was the Lake Almanor Basin and Westwood. And we did bring in Greenville. Maybe I just hoping or something, but absolutely. Even though there's the FQHC there, that's our primary service area. You know, it's other than the issues with Medi-Cal managed care, because they're in Madison County, everyone else should be coming to Seneca because that's just a clinic. So maybe they can go there for their primary care, but they're coming here for everything else, as opposed to driving over the hill to go to Susanville and all that. So we should really push hard to get as much business out of Westwood as we can. There's 2,500 people there. I don't know where they're all at, but there's 2,500 people. So, very encouraging study.
By the way, does Westwood, they go by the zip code in Westwood? You know?
Oh, you mean 96137?
Yeah,
Because that's also another question.
That's me.
yeah.
That's
That's
me.
me.
And Dana.
So sometimes when you look at those demographics using that zip code, it's not 2,500 people in
Yeah.
Westwood, it includes the peninsula and.
Right, so everybody up to Clear Creek is Plumas County, so, yeah, I don't know what they.
I know when I was on the planning commission for Plumas County, we sent out a survey and I didn't get one.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't get one because I was considered part of Lassen County. So sometimes, lots of times, the 96137 zip code is an issue in planning.
Okay, so 96137 and the Rancheria. Okay, otherwise it was really a very positive thing. So they're gonna do another draft. I've invited them, their lead on the project, to come up next month to actually sit down with us and talk about how we can start projecting service enhancements and how we do that. Because again, all their pro formas and projections were just based upon our current numbers. So they created a demand from their study, but they didn't do anything to the financials based upon that. So Okay, so zipping along. Right after the capital budget request, the first agenda item, and this really again is for your information only, just so there's no confusion, is that I just wanted to, whatever I wanted to do, I wanted to reiterate that that server that I put back in the capital budget request was approved. And there's a small difference between the approved amount and the amount I have in the budget request. There's a monthly charge of $200. That's non-capital. That pushes it from 85,000 to 87 there. The next item is just the detail on the vans. The first page is what we finally, the final cost we had. This is the large van.
There's a delivery of them.
We got them. We got titles, we got license plates, although they're not handicapped. And they're not exempt, and we are going back to the state that we're gonna get exempt plates and we get handicap placards. Other than that, they're ours.
And we sold back the old van.
Yeah. Crossed our fingers as that
It made it down the
gentleman
hill.
rode away. Just an amazing thing. Such a great use of our resources and representation of the facility. So the original quote was the $65,000, and if you can see right about there, it says Med Assets. I think I said Amerinet. Med Assets discount. It's a GPO discount. We're in Premier through Adventist, so we lost that. That really would put us over our estimate. This is the smaller van, 37,841. And 35,973. So very close. So those are ours. Just wanted to inform you of that. So moving on. Okay, these are the items that we are bringing toward. Well, 3 of them we're bringing towards you for your approval, and 1 is the emergency purchase for your retroactive approval, I guess. Linda McCurdy wrote a nice history about the lab, and the fact that we've really that it's deteriorated, and now you guys can go by there before we do it, and you'll feel good about what you've decided here today, I hope. And then she talks about what we're planning to do. And here's the summary of the proposal. The flooring, like I said, the scope changed down in size, where it's now $4,860. We thought it was going to be about $7,000 based upon what it's cost for them to do other things. This center island, this changed as well. The Systems in Space is the vendor for this center island. They're pretty much a sole source vendor. Dave found these guys. They made a competitive bid on the all of the cabinets. So we have a competitive bid, if you will. They came in at $99,000 to do the center island and all the cabinets. As you can see, what we came out by doing the center island through Systems in Space, and then doing the cabinets through a local vendor, came in at $40,000. So we had a little savings of right around $20,000 by doing it this way. But this again is the cabinets. Then this is replacing everything. The center island.
Dave, are you going to be able to keep the lab running when they do this?
We've been brainstorming on that, and we're pretty confident we can. We're hoping to leave the chemistry analyzer where it is in the education laboratory, so they can pull the old one out and relocate a lot of that equipment over into the old OC admin office over there. And I'm not sure how much has to come out, but I think we've been looking at, I think we can get all of it out of there. There will be some inconvenience with not having a consolidated workspace. We'll have to move around a little bit. But we're hoping that that's a very limited time window, that they can get in and do what they need to do.
I'm just curious.
Do they give you an idea of how long the whole project would take? Approximately.
I haven't been given that information yet. It seemed like the cabinets were less than a week, but since we got the rebid, I'm not sure if that changed.
Putting some small stuff here, sinks and faucets, that'll be done by, I believe, by our staff. And this total request includes a small contingency, which, we don't anticipate. Nice thing about replacing everything, right? Unless there's something behind me. Yeah, in hiding. Okay, so that's what's before you. So we have in here the individual proposals. A proposal from the Carpets Galore for the flooring. Carpets Galore was one of the people that would seem to work with Linda McCurdy on a challenging little project like this. Then our next thing is the systems in space. The nice thing about this, it did add some cost to it, but it's Dave, I don't know if you can explain it, a freestanding that doesn't need to be anchored down.
Correct. And it doesn't require, because we're not anchoring it, we don't require a hodgepodge to come in and do an assessment.
That's the only thing that would trigger them to come into this project?
Yes.
We had our architects spec the cabinets to Oshkosh standards, so they will be installed per those specifications. Here's the quote from the cabinet guys.
I think I just heard off the wall on this one.
They will not.
Okay, well, let's do
48,000. And just for your point of reference, there's a blank page here, and then we threw in how we previously got to the $40,000. That the middle island was previously 22,000, the anchored one, and then just the upper cabinets were $18,000.
And this will have to all be coordinated with the installation of the equipment too, right? I'm sorry, this will all have to be coordinated with your equipment install, right?
What's gonna have to be coordinated with moving things out of the primarily.
This has to be done before you take delivery of the new equipment, or?
Where I have to look at it.
Yeah, we've received equipment in PD. I don't know where Dave's, like I said, I don't know where Dave's stashing it right now.
We're, we have one kind of not installed where it needs to be. It needs to go into, it's still in the area with the first end of the laboratory. But its home is over inside under the air conditioner, so we really can't put it in there until they do the floor and the cabinets. Where it is now, it's not, we can't stay there because it's a lot too, there's not a lot of air circulation.
Thank you. It sounds like this company
Yeah, and the other, well, the three, and the other three, were extremely expensive. I just looked at the lowest cost. Better.
Okay, so what we're asking you for is approval to finish the modernization of the lab, to include replacement of cabinets, flooring, new center island, sinks, lavatory faucets, for estimated project cost of $91,665.34.
And from your perspective, financial standpoint, you're comfortable with this?
And if we amortize the cost over the period, we haven't done anything, it's a very small cost. We'll be in this facility for 5 more years at a minimum, so it's not a large investment for 5 years. That makes sense.
What is the total cost again?
Just under 92,000.
Okay. And we have to approve this today?
We're asking you for approval of this today.
Do the board members have any comment or discussion on this? I'm not really an expert on cabinets and stuff like that. I have to trust you.
Neither. I'm just pulling the numbers together and based upon the recommendations from
Well, there is a person in here I trust, and that's Dave.
Dave and Karen Turner.
You're okay with this, Dave?
I was amazed by the conserving cost. I haven't had cabinets installed in my house for 20 years, so. Yeah, I'm okay.
But it'll do what you want it to do.
We need something, because right now, we remind us where the shelter is fall on the
Okay.
area. We're hoping to improve the workspace. Right now, so it's a challenge to manage workflow at times. There's no place to send anything.
Yeah.
He really wants a bigger lab, but
Well, but that's what we need is more space.
Hearing.
Yeah. There's no doubt about that. Well, do the board members have any comment or discussion? We want to approve this?
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Dana?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
And I vote aye.
okay.
Do you have any idea when this will start?
Well, after today, I think the cabinets, the upper cabinets will go in fairly quickly. Understanding, I'm not sure the timeline yet, we're kind of waiting to see where it went from today. We put the new floors in before they now, folks on the floor.
Okay. Okay, look forward to it.
Okay. Wow. All right, so the next agenda item, capital purchase request, is 6 III number 2. Okay, thank you, Dave. Thank you. So, as you recall, from our previous meetings, we brought up the idea about fencing in the long-term care patio so that the residents could use that beautiful area independently. It's a big ask of the resident council. So we went and looked at it and we came up with, back up, you guys had also designated the Colm family donation of $10,000 to go towards this. So then we looked at see what we could do. It was challenging to say the least because it has to be, we can't have a restricted access. I'm probably not saying this the best way. There has to be, I don't know if egress is the right word, but there has to be a way out, a way that you can get out. It can't be locked, it can't be secured. And so we had to also based upon the way that the access would come from the long-term care unit, mainly this ramp that's off the back porch of their door there, that it would have to run into a little emergency driveway there that's used for unloading and unloading residents, and is also can be used for emergency vehicle access. So that required us to move the fencing across the emergency access road and along the grass there area, if you're familiar with that. So we did receive a quote to do the patio fencing. Unfortunately, when we looked at this, that we then were going to have the residents come down the ramp and go in onto the emergency access road, much like the remainder of our asphalt surfaces on our campus. They're not even. They're broken. They're just like everything around here with the tree roots and stuff. Everyone has the same problem. So it was deemed that it was not safe to put the residents, whether they're walking or in a wheelchair, whatever, that we would have to come up with an idea to make that safe as well. And so talking with Lance Moneth, our project manager, on things at the hospital and the new facility master plan. That's Linda McCurdy too. Linda McCurdy and Ashley Blow and Pam Valencia, our regulatory consultant, that the only real way to do it would be to do concrete there. And make it smooth. It wouldn't be subject to some of the other issues that asphalt are. So what we did is we asked Lance to give us a quote for both the fencing and the concrete work. So the first thing you have here, and I gotta poke a little fun at Lance here when he says sniff patio.
Maybe his spell check didn't work.
Somehow it ended up getting capitalized like that, which is correct. So, so here the first thing we're looking at is to install the black iron fence. Very attractive, very nice. Look nice. Wouldn't look like a like a barrier, like they're being held in. It's attractive. This came in at $19,583.06. Then we made a request of him to do a proposal to do the concrete slab area. And I didn't say on the fencing, it also includes a gate, a swing-out gate, so that vehicles can get in there. Linda McCurdy can get in there and do the snow removal. To do the concrete is $19,550. So our little tiny project, Goodwill project, now has a cost of just under $40,000, less the Colm family $10,000.
So somebody donated the downstairs area, what I call it downstairs, but the outside area, right?
Yes.
And that surface that you walk on there, is that going to stay the same?
Well, Linda looked at it and has smoothed pieces of it out. So what we're talking about doesn't include that area, because that area is already fenced and
Right.
concrete with the flowers and all that, the planters. So that surface right now, we just have to flatten it out a little bit more. It shall be fine.
Okay. Because ever since that was put in, I almost never see anybody down there.
Well, and then the issue is the fence and bringing.
They can't get down there.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to do, and that was part of what, during some of the surveys and during the skilled nursing resident council, for the skilled nursing patients who can verbalize their request, they want to go down there.
So, you mentioned something about not being able to secure the area.
Not, the way the regulation says is we can't just throw a padlock on it.
What do we have to do with it?
Put like a, what's past survey is we put like a, what do the climbers call it? A carbon iron, carabiner, just a clip on it, just so that the thing doesn't open.
Okay, so we can put something on it.
Yeah, so that it's not just wide open or swings open. It's secure so it doesn't swing open, but it's a challenge to get it to open. A couple of us could get over.
Think of it as one of those gates that are the child protection gates, and you have to do, I call it a Rubik's Cube to get it open. It's like that.
It's like a Rubik's Cube, I'll never get in.
So this is what we've come up with, there doesn't appear to be a lot of options. What we're asking you for today also would be contingent upon Pam Valencia has been on leave, saying that she's okay with the slope of the ramp going down to the emergency exit, because the slope, I don't know, Linda, help me explain the slope.
So the slope of the ramp is not ADA compliant, and in order to get it to be ADA compliant, we have to do that switchback. It never has been, and so what Pam had been talking about is if we get the physical therapist to evaluate the skilled residents about their ability to get down that ramp, that's one piece. We care plan it correctly so that we can show that we're doing what we need to do to get residents down there. If we have a resident that can't go down the ramp on their own, then we have to care plan that a staff member will get them down there. So that's a piece of that ramp. And in order to do that ramp to the correct ADA slope, it goes all the way out into the middle of the lawn. We are grandfathered in at this point to where we don't have to do anything with that ramp as long as we don't do anything to that ramp. Did I explain that right? Because I think I confused myself.
No, that's perfectly stated.
So, will Oshwood come out and inspect after we do this project?
No. It's a repair. It's a repair of the area. That is a piece of what, when Lance checked with Oshpod, he actually has quite a relationship with our Oshpod person.
And Pam basically said this. She said that the surveyors will be supportive of our efforts to enhance the life
And that makes sense.
experience of the resident. And that's what we're trying to do here.
And loading, I'm actually looking for loading zone. So we're moving that around, are they gonna care about that?
Yeah, I don't think so, because I think the only change we're making to that is that we have to widen it because it has to be 36 feet or whatever the thing, it has to be wider at the entrance, the 35 by 24 to conform to the site design. So that's the only real change to the surface that was explained to us. So that our gate is 36 feet wide.
And do we have more than one bid for these?
We did not put this out to bid. This is something we're comfortable with providing to Lance. Linda Purdy was okay with Lance's estimate of the cost of concrete work based upon the size of the cost in comparison to what we initially thought we might be looking at. I'm more than happy to put it out to bid. The only thing is that the next thing we're going to talk about, the CT ramp, which involved concrete work. We received no responses to our request for proposal. No responses. Concrete guys are busy right now. Extremely busy.
Sure has her hand.
No, I didn't speak up.
Dr. Wall.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, that garden spot that they're talking about, now it's been about a year and a half since I've been there, because my acquaintances then that I used to go that passed away.
But over the years, I was told the reason they hadn't used that is they needed someone that worked for the facility to go down and stay in that area with the patients so they wouldn't wander off.
And that's the reason for the
And that
fencing.
gate was such a pain that I would go through the hospital to go down there because I couldn't use that gate anymore with my hands.
I believe
But
you.
wouldn't it be easier just, instead of going down, just build out the deck over it and put planter boxes and stuff for them to go out and use? That way it'd be one level thing from the hospital, and you'd have the gate and you wouldn't have to worry about concrete and ramps and all that. I mean, they could go out and, you could even do like raised beds, and the ones that like to work in the garden, they could not have to bend over, but they could dig and plant and stuff. Wouldn't that be a better use of the money instead of $40,000, $45,000?
You're asking me? I don't know. They would have to get a cost estimate on that.
And also, when they put in that lower thing, I don't remember how that was put in because my memory's not as good as it should be. I mean, was it put in with a contingency that would have to stay there because someone donated the money or what? Do you remember?
Yes. Somebody donated the work, it was Harvey Burnett, and his mother was in Harvey and Gina
For
Burnett.
the garden?
Yes, and he was a landscaper.
But I meant his mother is someone who had to do the garden club.
His mother lived in long term.
Oh,
I don't think she had anything to do with growing things. And so he did it as a kindness to send to the hospital the work and the stuff.
Yeah, but I meant then someone would have to go down and stay with the residents so you wouldn't wander off, and that's one reason it's not utilized. Well, it should be.
It's just really hard to get there. That's more the problem, isn't it?
One of the problems. One of the problems is it's hard to get there, and then the other problem is, as Shirley explained or said, is that we have to be able to keep the residents safe, and if there's a possibility of wandering, we need to be able that we have an area to keep them safe. But we still have to be able to let them, because we don't hold them there and keep them there if they want to leave. So thus is that Rubik's Cube gate, as I call it, because we have to make it so it's not as easily accessible to leave. And it's all part of the patient's rights and the regs over in the skilled. And that's why we talked with Pam Valencia, because she is an expert in all things skilled. And so she's sent the approval out on what we're trying to do.
Well, it's not a much to now leave, so to get final confirmation, right? So do we want to wait for that?
We can, but I guess the question is do we want to look at alternatives? I mean, it's $40,000 scaring you guys off, kind of thing. But any work there is going to be expensive as well. I don't know exactly what we might be able to do, but we can look at alternatives. This is what we came up with.
If they're pouring concrete, can you combine so that that CT ramp is really a mess?
That won't even be a debate. We have to do that. Yeah.
I guess I'll just assume that when you were presenting this to us, this is what you wanted.
This is what we want.
And this is what the residents wanted. They talked about it at resident council.
We just weren't prepared to spend $40,000 on this, and so.
So you're saying you don't want it?
The residents want it, Steve, finance would prefer
We need to do
cheaper.
something, Rich, this is the best solution we've come up with, and it costs $40,000 less 10.
Okay.
I'll move that we approve the
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Any discussion? Vote. Jerry?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Dana?
Aye.
Ken? I vote aye. Sorry, Shirley. That's democracy.
Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna take Dr. Wall's lead here and just ask for approval on this.
Well, it has to be
It has to
done.
be
It's
done.
not an option.
There's, yeah. So this is the CT, the ramp, or whatever you want to call it, the transition from going out the ER to the CT. And those of you that have been out there have seen the crumbling. We've valiantly tried to do temporary solutions, and it's clear that the only solution is going to be repairing that concrete permanently, and then the recommendation is to put some traction things on there, and that will insulate the concrete from the water, and this should be a permanent solution. So we put this out for bid, and it went out to a couple local concrete companies. And I know this doesn't sound good, but we need to get things done here, and we have a contractor that's assisting us with projects, and we had Lance put together the scope of the work. Linda McCurdy signed off on it. We ran it by Aspen Street, our architects, to make sure that this would fly and that this wouldn't incite Oshpod. So everyone was involved. Linda Wagner was involved, and then Lance sent it out to the contractors. One of the problems is that he looked up, and for public works projects, I believe it's over $25,000. You have to be registered with the Department of Industrial Relations. There's one general contractor in Plumas County that's registered with them, well, Dig It Construction is, but they do dirt work and the like. He did directly contact two concrete guys, local, at least Plumas County, and sent them a proposal. We talked to them about it, but they never sent in a bid by the deadline. And Lance was the only one to actually submit a bid on construction.
So then is he licensed by whatever that?
He is.
Okay, thank you.
He is. So what's going to happen is the bid that's in the package here, the $27,000, is his work, and then there will be $13,000 for that next to last bullet there, install safeguard walkways on ramp to rear. The safeguard walkways traction is $13,733.40. And all that was going to be the same. We mandated that we use this product. The cost was going to be the same regardless of who would bid. It's the question.
High traction, I guess, is intended for freezing and snow and stuff like
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah.
And is it just a grip, or, I mean, does it have to be salted or shoveled, or?
Yeah, it needs to have stuff put on it, but it doesn't permeate into it, or whatever the right word is. It's resistant to it.
I mean, I couldn't help but wondering about a heated walkway,
A heated
like
walkway.
a heated driveway that keeps things melt.
I think this was the most cost effective in that the stuff is resistant to water, and it's also resistant, like if you put, part of the problem is we kept putting ice melt on concrete, and eventually it erodes it away.
This would not require that.
The traction stuff is resistant to ice melt, and it seals in the concrete, so the water and the ice melt or whatever you're putting on there isn't getting down to the concrete.
What it should be is it should be covered. That's what it should be.
That's Oshpod.
Yeah. So while this repair is going on, there's no way they could use the CT scanner, right? You can't get to it.
They put in a proposal that CT needs to be able to access it. So they'll have to come up with a solution as to what that means.
Okay, that'll be interesting.
Throw them over his shoulder. I
Do
don't
one-
know.
do
That-
one half?
There may be a short period of time when they're right in front of it that they have to shut it down, but it was a requirement that we retain access to the CT unit.
Okay.
So that's a proposal, the 27,000, and then the 13 is within our purchasing. We're asking you to approve the contract from Modern Construction to do the concrete work and then to install the safeguard walkway.
Well, Lance's work has been good so far. Everything he's done here has been good, so, and we do need this. It's terrible.
Very few complaints.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, Dana? Rich?
Aye.
Larry? Ken?
Aye.
And I vote aye.
Okay. So, just very quickly, this last one is I guess kind of an FYI, retroactive approval that told the story about the CR reader going down and the solution being to bring in the DR plate, the digital reader plate. And Dr. Walls can speak to the images are much better now, and it's the standard, so it was a very good solution to that situation. So we did spend $30,000,
5/12/63.
So I guess we're just asking for your retro. We own it, we're using it, and
I move for approval.
thank you.
All in favor, Jerry?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Dana? Ken?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, how much did we spend today?
A lot. But before you go on, you probably need to back up and move to accept the financial report, and then move to approve the questions and the increases on the budget request that Steve presented.
I will move to accept the financial report.
I'll second.
All in favor? Jerry? Rich?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
And I vote aye.
And then the other thing was to approve the capital budget request that Steve had put forward, those changes.
I thought we were just budgeting it.
Yeah, I don't
As we were-
Is that what
Yeah,
you're doing?
I don't think there's anything to prove any knowledge.
Okay.
And that right now, we've still kept our total projection request within the amount that you guys did, the funding you approved, so we're good.
I just wanted to make sure we didn't
Right.
miss anything. Thank you.
Okay, are you finished, Steve?
With that part,
Okay.
great, thank you for your time.
The attestation, I guess you're gonna address that?
Yes, I sent it out ahead of time. We received a letter from Oshkosh, and all what this is to make, the board has to be aware and has to be in the minutes, and then an official letter sent back to Oshkosh saying that the board is aware that we do have some buildings that rating less than the SPC 3 and MPC 5. This is not new news to us. But apparently, we need to send this letter back to Oshkosh saying that the board is aware.
Would you mind reading it for us?
The whole letter? Sure. It says, "Dear Ms. Wagner, this letter is to advise you that Assembly Bill 2190, and that was done in 2018, requires the governing board for each hospital facility that is not in full compliance with the Hospital Facility Seismic Safety Act to submit an attestation of their awareness of the January 1st, 2030 deadline in a form of their choice to the Office of Statewide Planning and Development. Health and Safety Code Section 130066, before January 1st, 2020, the owner of an acute care inpatient hospital whose building does not substantially comply with the seismic safety regulations or standards described in Section 130065 shall submit to the office an attestation that the board of directors of that hospital is aware that the hospital building is required to meet the January 1st, 2030 deadline for the substantial compliance with those regulations and standards. You are receiving this reminder because one or more of the buildings at your facility has performance ratings less than SPC 3 or NPC 5 as required by January 1st, 2030. Attestations may be mailed to the address above or emailed to Seismic Compliance Unit at oshpa.cal.ca.gov not later than January 1st, 2020. Please specify the facility name and number for each facility to which the attestation is made. If you need further information regarding AB 2190, you may visit our website at http://www.oshpa.ca.gov. Sincerely, Carl Schwierman. So we've got the letter ready to go.
Ellen, I'm just wondering if you'd read Assembly Bill number 2190 for us?
The whole thing? Sorry. Thank you.
So we just have to sign a letter?
Right, you just have,
Send it back.
action that, yes, the board approves it, for you as the board president to sign the letter, and then Joanne will send it off.
Do you want a motion to that
Please.
effect?
Please.
Can we make a motion?
So moved.
Second?
No second.
Jerry? Rich?
Aye.
Dana? Ken?
Aye.
And I vote aye.
Thank
You
you.
have a copy, I'll sign after.
We have it ready.
All right. HRG?
Okay, very quickly, I'd like to they continue to struggle, showing some signs of improvement based upon the discussions at this week's Finance Committee. I've been directed to begin looking at viable alternatives. So we'll continue to work with HRG and try and get them to meet our needs, that they continue to have struggles with staffing, and that's just the bottom line with them, and a level of expertise with Medi-Cal. So we will.
They do say that they are focusing on it as a sense of urgency.
Many have a problem is the first step, right?
At the treasurer's meeting the other day, we decided since September is a critical time to ask Steve to move forward and present to the board some alternatives.
Okay. Governor's education. Actually, once they got into the purpose of the meeting, it was fine. Some of the introductory stuff was a little trying. But I don't know if Rich, if you want to say anything about it, or Joanne, Renee, anybody want to talk?
No.
Sadie, you were there. Do you have anything to say?
It was really fun.
Yeah. We all completed it, so that's the report. Okay, can we move on to committees then? The Strategic Planning Committee, is there an update from that?
No, but I will be sending out an official written update now that we have some information from Collins Pine. We are working on, their attorney is taking time, and what Terry Collins had referred back to Lance and myself was, if we wanted to get this official purchase agreement, we probably needed our attorney to write it up and send it to them. So we'll be doing that so we can get that lot line adjustment done. You heard Steve gave a really good report on the Whiffley market feasibility study. We're still waiting on the Aspen response. So there wasn't a lot to talk or to call a strategic planning committee together yet. So I'll give them the update and send it out to all of you.
When are we expecting Aspen's report?
Steve, did you get an update on that? When they were here, they didn't, they asked for some more information when they were here last, 2 weeks ago, Steve? And they did not give us a time frame back yet.
Okay, can we find out?
We sure can.
Okay. You want to go on with the CEO report?
Sure, Dr. Cooper was here, he signed and has been doing some, seeing patients. Dr. Yosef was the physician that we interviewed. He responded back that he only wants to work part-time for the first year, doing 2 days in the clinic and 1 day in ER every other week. We sent back to him that that wasn't acceptable, and if he wanted full-time, that would be great, but he doesn't want that. We have a signed contract with Teresa Nielsen, FFP, if you don't, she's sitting in the audience there. She will be locum until, we have to finish out that contract, which is the end of September, and then she'll be ours. The residency program, Dr. Devinas is looking at coming out sometime in September, but he kind of pushed it off maybe October to do a site visit so that he can come look at our facility, and we can maybe start doing a residency program through his piece, which is Shasta Community. Then the Toro University, we had an FNP, our PA student here, and he really enjoyed it here, and the Toro University is wanting us to have more students come in for PAs and FFPs, and they're also connecting us with the medical school so that maybe we can do some of those programs with them. I sent out an email just a little bit earlier, Dr. Mathilda, and I cannot say this last name, Mozazi. She would like to come up for an interview September 13th and 14th. She is really interested in our facility. We did a really brief phone interview with her. Ann was there and Jim was there with me. I sent out her CVs so that you can look at it. She's right now, she works in the Bay Area, San Jose, and then she also flies up and goes to Wairika and does their ER. So she's a clinic and an ER doctor. Then tomorrow, the California Hospital Association set up a meeting with the CEOs to talk with Congressman LaMalfa tomorrow in Oroville. So I will most likely be down there to meet with him and thank him for all the encouragement he's given to critical access hospitals. We got a report that SB 227, which is the staffing ratios, they dropped that piece in that Senate bill regarding fines and penalties if you didn't meet the ratios, you self-reported and didn't meet the ratios. They dropped that huge fine penalty. We sent lots of letters and people went and spoke, and so that was a good thing. On the auxiliary wish list, we've ordered or are in the process of ordering those remaining items and equipment. That back-ordered AccuVein illuminator finally came in, so we're getting that filled, and the staff is working on looking at new items for them. We just were notified that the Plumas County Free Clinic, the flu clinic, was set up for Chester October 18th, so we need to make sure that we advertise October 18th for the flu clinic that Plumas County puts on, that the auxiliary and the staff assist with. The state is visiting us right now in the skilled nursing facility. They came on a self-report and a anonymous complaint, so we haven't heard back yet if they're still here or if they left or if they had any findings. We also received a letter from the state from their visit on August 13th. That actually wasn't a visit, it was a follow-up phone call. The visit had occurred due to a complaint that occurred when they were here for a survey in the queue. The good news was there was no findings. They did the investigation and there was no findings on that one.
Does the board ever get to hear what the nature of these complaints are?
When we find out, yes. We're continuing to work with Align Telehealth and the Plumas County Behavioral Health so that we can get telehealth in the ER for our behavioral health patients. It's not the same as the telehealth program that we have over here on this side. It's different. It's something that we're partnering with Plumas County to do. There's a board clerk conference in November that we'll be sending. I forgot to introduce her name. A board clerk conference that California Special Districts Association puts on. We send our board clerks every year. It's in November, and Joanne and Renee Nez is the new CEO executive assistant, Yeah, between Joanne and Renee, they're gonna be doing the board clerk. Joanne's primary right now because she's got the 3 months experience now with the board clerk, and then Renee will back her up, and after they come back from that board clerk seminar in November, there'll be some decisions made on which one feels most comfortable being the board clerk. We did credential the occupational therapist and the occupational therapist aide under temporary privileges, and then you'll see that once it goes through medical staff next month, and then it'll come back to the board for full privileges. So they, as Steve had said, they're here working now and working with our skilled nursing and whatever swing bed patients we get. And then the other thing is, internally, we were looking at that organizational chart. I made some changes. We were looking at making some more changes to it, but we're gonna hold off on making any changes to that chart until after the investigation occurs that we talked about in work, at our enclosed session. And I think that is all of my notes. I tried to go fast. I
Thank you.
apologize if I went too fast.
Thank you. Moving along with department issues, I don't see Casey here. She's not here? What?
She didn't have a report.
Okay. And Sadie, do you have any report?
No.
Karen is not here? Ann? I have a question for CEO and for Ann. I would like to know why the medical assistants cannot take blood pressures on people who come in to have their blood pressure checked.
Oh, just to walk in?
Well, my patients, if I tell my patient to come in a couple times a week and get their blood pressure checked, now my MA is not allowed to check it.
It was the policy that we currently have written specifically states that community service blood pressure checks should happen by licensed personnel at the hospital. So when we realized that's what was going on, we're in the process of rewriting that policy, but I recommended to our staff that if people are coming in for blood pressure checks, they should be registered so we have a place to document them. And for our protection, we should be following the current policy until we can have it updated to more appropriate standards.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about walk-ins, I'm talking about my patients. When I tell my patient, someone comes in with high blood pressure, and I tell them, come on back a couple times over the next couple weeks, let us check your blood pressure, and then I'll see you and we'll go over them and see if it's a problem, because I don't treat one elevated blood pressure reading.
So that should be, I'll have to clarify then, because I was specifically talking about somebody just walking in off the street, hey, can I get my blood pressure checked, not per your request, please come in.
Well, that's not what the
Okay.
letter said.
I will clarify that in the email to everyone.
Okay.
Because that was not the intention.
Because we don't do that. We don't have walk-ins in our office. I can't speak for Dr. Ware, but...
Yeah.
Well, and
I
even
will
it's,
clarify that.
if you as a physician and you have the established patient and you said come back 3 times or once a week or whatever, you've already done that order and they come in and your MA can take that because the MA would have done the blood pressure anyway. If they
Okay.
came in for...
But they weren't doing it based on the letter that they got.
Well, and that was a miscommunication. We'll fix that, and thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Okay. There is nothing, well, let's see, I'm not done. TK, did you have a report?
Just from the standpoint on our, in the next coming week, we're going to be transitioning to what's called the updated EMAR. Basically, the nurses are going to be working off the same platform of the EMAR as the doctors currently do. Right now, they have a view-only access. Starting next week, they'll be able to actually administer medications from that same view.
Good. Okay, thank you. There's a written report on HR. You can read that if you have any questions. And then nothing in the consent agenda. Joanne, do you have anything for next month's agenda? Anything any board members have?
It's the bylaws is deferred to last month.
It seems like it's deferred every month. Are we gonna have something on that? Okay, all right. And the closed session is over. So I guess the next regular meeting will be September 24th at 3 o'clock, same place.
And that is, I'm sorry to interrupt, but that is the change. We're having it on Tuesday, not Thursday. It was already board approved.
Right.
And it was because we have the annual, that one's the annual beta meeting.
Okay,
So and that's why we put, note the date change.
okay,
Same time, just it's on Tuesday of the same week.
okay. Adjourned.
24.